Good morning, Gators. Today we are going to work on one of my favorite things, paper mache. Now we're going to get a little messy, so you have to ask your parents' permission, and you probably have to have mom or dad help you find some of the supplies. We're going to be using a couple basic supplies: a bowl, water, flour, newspaper, but if you don't have newspaper, because I don't, you can use a magazine. But newspaper is better because it's porous, which means it's able to absorb the paper mache, the water and the flour. But we can make do with our magazines instead. I'm going to show you first how to make the armature. An armature is the base of our object. If you remember, not last year, but the year before, I made, with the help of some fifth graders and third and fourth graders, we all made April, our giraffe. Now, like I was saying, April was made out of paper mache. Underneath, she didn't look so good. She was made of boxes and toilet paper rolls and a lot of tape to keep her together. But once you put that paper mache on her, she gets really hard and very durable. So we're going to start first by making the armature. You can make it, like I said, out of foil. You can use toilet paper rolls. You can use boxes. I am going to make two different ones to show you. I'm going to make something small out of foil, and I'm going to show you how to put something together that's a little larger out of recyclables. The armature, we can make it two ways. We can use foil or we can use recyclables. I started this one with recyclables, and I said, you know what, this would make a good pig with the little snout there and everything. So I kind of look at what I'm using and see if it looks somewhat like the object already that I'm going to make. I took paper towel holders and I cut them up to make some feet, and you can see it's not pretty, but all you're doing is making that base. Once you put the paper mache on top and you paint it, that's when you're making it look more realistic. So I'm going to use a lot of tape. I'm going to put my other 2 feet on. Masking tape, painter's tape, whatever you have laying around. And I'm going to just kind of go over it as tight as possible to it. I said, oh, that's a little off. So I go back and fix it. I try to even it up with the ones in the front. And I will put the last feet on, or last foot on, I should say. Lining it up with the one on the front, going over it. Like I said, doesn't have to be pretty. All we want is it to look close to the shape of the object we're trying to make, or the animal. And it stands up. And there is the beginning of the pig. Don't have to worry about the tail, because I might put some yarn on for the tail, or I could paint the tail on, doesn't really matter. I'm going to make some ears. Now, boys and girls, you might want your parents to help you with this, because some of the objects you might have to cut. So get permission, get help from your parents. Don't do it by yourself. The only thing I want to make here, maybe some ears. So I'm cutting some ear shapes out. Once again, I will use tape to put those ears on. Make sure it's nice and dry. There's a little water in that bottle. We'll go over it. Could even cut the tape a little around that ear. Tape it on like that. I can go over it, over the back side, just to make it a little stronger, a little thicker, because remember we're going to be going over that with the paper mache. All right, and then I'm going to use the other ear. If I had cardboard, probably use the cardboard, but using what I have, I am just using what is around the house. Once again, can go around the ear. The amount of tape you use isn't going to matter. It's all going to be covered up. All right, so there I have the front. That is the front of the pig. Snout, 2 ears, 4 legs, not worried about the tail.
Now another armature you can make would be using foil. Okay, I sketched out what I want to make. I want to make a chameleon. I'm just going to crumple up the foil, try to make that shape. First I start rolling it a little loosely. And then I can start forming it into my head. I want it to follow the shape. I could even cut it into the shape if I want. Remember, I want it to be 3-dimensional, so I'm going to make it kind of thick. That's where the head goes down. At the back. The tail obviously gets thin. I might actually cut that away and add some later. Okay. This is underneath right here. Underneath. I'm gonna cut away. I'm gonna cut away the tail because I want to make a thinner tail. And this is where the parents come in handy. I want you to cut yourself. So as you can see, I have the basic shape going. I can keep working on it. Okay, I can keep wrapping some foil around there if I want to make it a little thicker. Then I'm going to make my tail and my legs. I'm going to rip off a little foil. This obviously can be thinner. Kind of rolling it up like a really thin hot dog. Okay. So my tail is like a curly Q. I'm going to kind of wrap it around my fingers so I get that good design. Now, when the tail comes off the body, it's going to be thicker. It's going to be wider right here as it comes off the body. So I want to maybe double it over a little bit there. There we go. Well, and I am going to tape it using my tape. Like we always say in class, does not have to be perfect. Nothing is. It's the effort we put forth that is important. Even using the tape gives you a little shape to that body as well. Okay. All right, so I would do the arms, actually, legs, I should say. They have legs. I would do the legs the same way. We're going to do 4 legs, same way, using thinner rolled foil. And that is how you make an armature, either in foil or using recycled objects. We're going to move on now to putting the paper mache on our armatures. Girls, in front of us we have both of our armatures. We have the pig, and I have finished strapping on all of the legs on my chameleon. So it is time to put the paper mache on. All right, for the paper mache, luckily I found some flour at my mom's house. She gave me permission to take it. So we have regular flour. We have a bowl. And for demonstration purposes, I am using a water bottle, but just use the water from the sink. All right, we're going to start by putting little of the flour in the bowl. Not the whole pack, just a little bit of flour. Okay, you can always add. And I'm going to pour a little bit of water in. We want the consistency, or we want it to feel like, milk is not milk. Milk is too thin. I want it to feel like more of a milkshake. So I'm going to continue to put a little water in. Better to put the water in a little at a time, or else you're going to have to keep adding more and more flour if you make it too thin. And you mix it. This is still a little too pasty. Put a little more water. Add a little bit more, just a little bit at a time. Okay, let's mix this up. This is starting to look good. It is messy, but we all love messy, as long as we clean up after ourselves. This is getting good. Maybe a little bit more. Kind of feels like a milkshake or kind of like oatmeal. It's hard to go wrong. All right, that looks good. So I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to get my, hopefully you have newspaper. If not, I'm going to get, because I don't, I'm going to get my magazine so I can start ripping some of that up.
All right, I'm gonna put a little paper down on my work surface because I don't want this to get all over my table. And I'm gonna take my magazine page or newspaper, hopefully, and I'm gonna do just thin strips. Because mine is kind of small, not like how large the giraffe was, I'm gonna do smaller pieces. I'm gonna take my bowl, when I dip it in, I make sure it goes all the way in, then I take 2 fingers and I wrap it on both sides just to get that excess off. All right. And then I'm just gonna start with a spot, and I start wrapping it on my chameleon. And I keep going. I want about, I'd say 3 layers on my chameleon. And then I will put him out in the sun. Now make sure, boys and girls, it's not a rainy day, okay? Or if it is a rainy day, make sure to keep an eye on that because you don't want it to get rained on. So leave it out in the sun to dry unless the weather starts turning a little bad. All right, so I just keep going and going. I'm gonna go all along the tail, the legs, the head, the entire thing. I don't want any spots open. Now, when you overlap the paper, make sure that overlap is nice and smooth. Sometimes I even, if my paper's too dry, I stick my finger in the bowl and then kind of put a little more paste on the area where the papers connect, okay? You want it to be a smooth transition from one piece of paper, from one strip to the next. All right, and basically I do the same thing on my pig. Once again, ripping thin pieces, putting it in the bowl, 2 fingers on the side, getting off that excess. You don't want it to be too pasty, and wrapping it. You want to wrap it on the bottom of the structure as well as the top. All areas need to be covered. Well, I have just finished doing my 2 to 3 layers of paper mache on my chameleon and my pig, and now I'm going to put them outside to dry. I'm going to let them dry for about 2 to 3 days in the sun. If they're nice and hard and dry, then I'm going to proceed to paint them. All right, boys and girls, once you have put it outside in the sun, I hope you are cleaning up your mess. Remember what we always say in the art room: if you make the mess, you clean the mess. Once you have dried your paper mache piece, it has been outside for a couple days, bring it in, and you may paint it with a paint that's a little thicker, like a tempera or an acrylic paint. Watercolors are a little too thin, probably wouldn't work too well. If you are desperate and don't have any paints, if it's really dry, you could probably use some magic markers. Hope you had fun with our paper mache. I will be posting pictures of mine once they're painted and done on our Riverglades Art Instagram account. Thank you.